Hello, good morning and welcome to our webinar where we'll be discussing BYOD or Bring Your Own Device and the security measures that go alongside policies such as those. Don't feel like you need to take notes or remember everything that we go through immediately today, as we'll be sending up a follow-up recording and fact sheet later today. So just feel free to listen in. If there's anything you want repeated, you'll be able to look back at the recording. In addition, we'll have some time for Q&A at the end of the webinar today. But if there's anything that suddenly triggers a question in your mind that you'd like to ask during the webinar, please feel free to add that to the question box and we will do our best to answer that as soon as possible. Let's take a look at the agenda for today. So we're going to start off just with a brief introduction to Bedrock. Then we'll be looking at Zero Trust and BYOD. Following that, we'll be looking at the dangers of using unsecured devices. Then we'll be taking a look at how we can take things to the next level in terms of security, and then how we can find the balance between zero trust policies and BYOD. Finally, we'll be looking at what's next, the next steps that your business can take to introduce some of these security measures, along with the next webinar that's coming up in our webinar series. So I just wanted to start with a quick introduction to Bedrock. My name's Jennifer Benge. I'm the marketing manager here at Bedrock. Today we're joined by Adam Plevin, who is our consultant IT director. So he's the best person to talk you through all the security measures that you need to take to secure your BYOD policy. So thank you, Adam, for joining us.
Not a problem. I'm here, disembodied voice currently, but I'll be on your screens in a second.
Okay, so Bedrock is an IT managed service provider, and we're also a Microsoft partner. What this means is that the majority of the technology we use is within the Microsoft stack. So whether that's Microsoft 365, Teams, Azure, SharePoint, all of that good stuff is Microsoft, and we are very well placed and very knowledgeable in implementing that technology for your business. The most important thing we want to achieve is to help your business grow better. We do this with the help of our 8 rocks. So these rocks are skills, investment, collaboration, quality of service, security, backup, data, and strategy. Obviously, the very best IT strategies involve all of these 8 rocks, and there may be some places where some of the elements are missing, some need a bit more work. That's where Bedrock are able to come in and help improve those areas to make the IT strategy as a whole better and able to contribute better towards the business. Obviously, today's webinar, we are focused on the security element. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Adam now to talk us through BYOD, how you can secure any potential dangerous devices.
Hello all. Okay, so let's start with the interesting question of what is the core concept of business security. And the thing that is most important, and that any InfoSec will tell you, is it's knowing where your data is and being in control of it, retaining control of that data. In the old school, the diagram on the screen, you protected the front door. You did some bit of physical security, and people couldn't get to your data, and so that's how it was. Protecting your data was relatively straightforward. Passwords on the machines so that you didn't get anybody inside, and that was your data was safe. You put firewalls in place to stop nefarious actors coming from outside the organization. But that was it. It was relatively straightforward. And today we don't have that. We've moved to a more agile, web-based work anywhere environment, and that becomes an awful lot more difficult to manage. Jenny, if you can click to the next slide for me. So that becomes an awful lot more difficult to manage. We're working in a world now where working from home is a common thing, where more and more services are moving to online, to SaaS-based services. Your critical line of business apps may not be hosted by you anymore, maybe elsewhere. We still have the on-premise stuff for what we might class as critical, but there's so much out there now, and the attack vectors are all different. And the big problem we had was last year was COVID arriving. There were an awful lot of businesses that panicked, opened doors, and left themselves vulnerable at the end of the day. And what happened there was they opened the doors, people went home and went, how do I carry on working? And in a lot of businesses, the workers themselves took it into their own hands to use services like Zoom, Dropbox, Hangouts, Google Drive, Teams and SharePoint. And it was controlled, or more correctly, it wasn't controlled by the IT teams within the businesses. Lots of smaller businesses don't have IT teams. They rely on third parties, and everybody was scrambling. So we ended up in the situation where a lot of businesses find themselves today, and there's a lot of businesses still in the state where they don't know where their data is. They don't know where their information is. People will have, on the last day of work, frantically set up a Dropbox account and copied a bunch of files into Dropbox. The IT department won't know where that data is and can't control it. So a lot of what we need to think about now is how to regain control of that data. You might not be able to find it where it's out in the cloud, but putting policies in place, putting systems in place to enable that to happen, and to enable control of your data is a lot of what's going on right now. Putting the pieces in place isn't going to retrieve that data, but the hope is that you put the systems in place that the workers that are out there that have squirreled that data away in the various locations understand through a bit of education that they can pull that data back, still access it easily, and carry on with their work. And that's what we're doing, is to try and lock the door once everybody's out, but we can help you through that. So if we go on to Zero Trust and BYOD, Zero Trust, it's a bit of a buzzword at the moment. It's a concept whereby the idea is that trust no one. If your data's already out there, then it's as much as you can do to try and retrieve it. But what we want to do now is to secure what you have got, and to do that, you start off by trusting no one. The way that I kind of visualize this is that you treat your data in the same way that you would the gold in the Bank of England. You can't get to it. You can't get to it from outside. And if you do want to get to it, you've got to prove who you are. In more ways than one. You can't just walk in there and flash a credit card at them. You've got to show them your passport. You've got to give them the birth certificate and the length of your inside leg to get in through the front door. And once you're in the front door, they will then go, okay, and how are you going to transport this gold? And what are you going to do it on? I want to see that. I want to check that that's all safe, because we don't want to lose any of this stuff. And this is exactly what we're doing with Zero Trust, is we're ensuring that the person that's coming through the front door is who they say they are. We're ensuring that where they're going to put the data is safe and secure, and we can carry on knowing that the data is still under our control. Whilst it's not within our four walls, it's still under our control. And the last piece of that is getting it to the point where you control what they can do with that data. Are they allowed to look at it? Are they allowed to edit it? Are they allowed to print it? And we can control all of this. And it's the same method. If you think about the Bank of England, what are you going to do with it once you've got hold of it? And the kind of the last bit, the taking it to the next level, is controlling how long you can do that. There are systems in place where we can do that. So that's Zero Trust. It's really kind of tightly controlling what you can do, how you can get access to your data, and to control what you're doing with it once you've got it. So we can go on to that in a little bit longer, a little bit later. So next slide is BYOD. What is BYOD? It sounds a bit daft, because we all know it's bring your own device. It's I'm going to work from my own device, but it's not just BYOD. It's not just I want to work from my device. It's bigger than that. It's any device that is used to access company information. So that could be a mobile phone, it could be a tablet, ultimately it could be a smart TV. It could be anything that's got a web browser on it can get to Office 365 and get to your emails. And therefore we want to control that. And so we have to think bigger than just I want to work on my laptop to do my emails at home whilst I'm sitting in front of the TV. What you actually want to think about is what other devices, what else am I going to do? What else do I want to try and do? What else do I want to prevent users from being able to do? So the BYOD is bigger than just I want to use a laptop for work. That covers off your mobile phones. It covers off any device that you want to use to access company information. And what we have to do to enable people to be able to work, but keep control of your data. And that's every time this has to refer back to, you need to be able to keep control of your data, understand where it is, and understand what people are doing with it. And those kind of two things you might think don't go hand in hand. BYOD, zero trust, surely they are mutually exclusive. You can't keep control of your data whilst also allowing people to access it on their personal devices. Well, the truth is that you can. You can set it up in such a way that devices can be secure. So if we click on to the next slide, which is one that I quite like, which is where is everything? It's all over the place. And so losing control of your data is really simple. So there are a number of things that we can do and scenarios that we can think about to secure your data. So if we think from the kind of the top level down, we want to make sure that the person that's accessing the data is the person you think they are. So we implement multi-factor authentication. Most systems, if you go to Twitter, if you go to Facebook, if you go to Instagram, they all have multi-factor authentication as an option. By default, it's not necessarily turned on, but anybody who's got what's the right word for it? got a modicum of I want to protect my personal information. You go into Facebook, you go into Twitter, you turn on the multi-factor authentication, and you get it so that it knows who you are. You can't log in from a different location. You can't log in from another device without it popping up and going, prove who you are, prove that you are who you say you are. And so we do exactly the same with all the Microsoft stack of stuff. We use the Microsoft Authenticator app normally. It can be a text, it can be a pop-up on the app, it can be go into the app and type in a number, and you get access to the systems. It verifies who you are, second level of authentication. Then the second piece behind that is you configure the systems to then look and trust the devices that the people are using. So company-owned devices would normally fall under mobile device management, which is MDM, which is taking control of the entire device. Personal devices, you don't want to do that because the majority of employees for a company won't want you taking full control of their personal laptop, or won't want you taking full control of their personal mobile phone. So what we have is mobile application management, which takes control of just the applications that are used to access company data. We can control which applications are used to get to and manipulate and access company data. What we would normally do is restrict it just to the Microsoft apps, because you know that they're in the ecosystem, you know that they're secure, and you know that it's going to work. But we can, dependent on your requirements, on the company requirements, we can make those changes. What that will give us is control over the data. And the big thing with that is that should something happen to the device, it be lost, it be stolen, the person leave the company. So you get somebody who leaves the company, a device that's lost, a device that's stolen, from a centrally managed point, pod your button on the screen, and it wipes all the company data off that device. And that's step one. That's staying in control of your data. What the MAM will also do is it allows us to invoke conditional access, and conditional access is the piece that ultimately controls it, because you can control who can do what from where on what as well. So we can allow Outlook access on a mobile phone, but not allow Outlook access through a browser on a laptop. And it is quite granular as to what you can do. And part of the MAM working with conditional access means that we're controlling the device, we're controlling what they can access, or the application they can use to access the data. But that also means we can control more of the device. So we can enforce that the device is encrypted. So if you've got a Windows 10 laptop, it'll go, your device has to be encrypted before you can access the data. It's not a case of doing it afterwards. It's before you can access the data, the device needs to be encrypted. The device needs to have a password. The device needs to have its lock screen enabled, that it comes on after 5 minutes. Those are the kinds of things, and there's a lot more than that, that we can enforce on laptops, on mobile devices, on tablets, on phones. And so we can control the security of the device. So if you think about somebody leaves a laptop on a bus, what we don't want is somebody to be able to flip up the lid. It'd be one of their personal devices. Somebody to be able to flip up the lid and be straight into the machine and be able to go, oh, look at this. I can open up their emails. I can open up their SharePoint, and I can see all these company documents. So you enforce it to have a password on it, and you can enforce the complexity, the length, the time that the password has to be reset, all those kinds of bits and pieces. And then the next level beyond that is you get somebody who picks up a laptop that was left on a bus, or even stolen, more with this scenario, and they go, actually, I really want that data. So they take the hard drive out the back of the laptop, plug it into another machine, the whole hard drive is encrypted. There's no way that they can get to that data. There's always ways around encryption, but with the types of encryption that's being used, the data would then be defunct in the 10 years it would take to decrypt it. But yeah, so we enforce that before the user's allowed to access any of the data. So we ensure that the data, we're harking back to that core concept of keeping control of your data. We know that that data is safe on that device, and we can do those things to secure the devices, be that an iPhone, be it an Android phone, be it a Windows laptop, or even a Mac laptop, which is the most common device people want to use BYOD for, because they don't like Windows. But we can at least keep that data secure, and you stay in control of it. If anything happens to the device, you can either wipe the the company data from it. So somebody leaves, you can press a button, it wipes the company data. If somebody loses a device, even a personal device, it's possible to wipe it completely, obviously with the user's consent, to even if you've just got MAM installed, you can still wipe the entire device. And those configuration policies to set up how the device needs to be configured to access the device, to access the data rather, it can be configured in any number of different ways dependent on the business requirements. So we can definitely do all of that. Taking it to the next level, sorry, that slide is showing how we can control access to the data. But if we take it to the next level, we then introduce MIP, which is Microsoft Information Protection. That takes it to the next level in multiple different ways. But what that gives us the ability to do is do even more granular control of that data, using SharePoint and the ability to add tags, metadata to your data, which then gives us the ability to control the data even when it leaves your organization. So I have an email, I have a time-sensitive email where there's a piece of data in there that needs to be actioned by a specific date, and I don't want anybody to see it afterwards. I could put a tag on that email, and that email will be visible to the person that I've sent it to only for a set amount of time. And then once that's gone, the email becomes locked and they can't look at it again. I could put a tag on it that will mean that if I send it to somebody, even if it's a Gmail address, I send it to somebody, they can open it and look at it, but they can't send it on to anybody else. You're keeping, even though it's outside of your systems, you're keeping control of that data. Same with documents. You can put tags against documents. When you send them to somebody, it can lock the document after a period of time. It can only allow access by the person that it was sent to, those kinds of bits and pieces. It's really powerful. And the fact that you can do that from within your system to control the data when it leaves your system is really powerful. What you can also do with MIP and putting tags on documents is internally you can control what people can do with documents. You have to have the correct access rights to be able to view a document, or to be able to edit a document, or to be able to email it to anybody. And whilst that sounds very much like controlling file permissions in the same way that you would have done many years ago, or maybe not so many years ago, on a traditional file system, what it gives you the ability to do is put all the documents in one location, and those that are allowed to see all the documents can see all the documents. So those that aren't allowed to see them don't see them, or they can see them and they can't edit them, they can't open them. And that's controlled by the tags and by the metadata that is on the documents. Now, one of the questions is always, that's going to be a laborious task. I've got 20,000 documents. How am I going to go through and put tags and labels on all of these documents? The system can do it for you. It's possible to train the system to do specific things, to put specific tags against document types and document content based on a bunch of rules that you can give it. Some of the rules that are built in are things like credit card data. So if you've got a bunch of documents and some of them have got credit card data in and some of them haven't, you can tell the system to go through, find all the credit card data and tag it in such a way that it shows that it's there. And that's one of the ones that's built in. You can go, find me all the credit card data, boom, everything's got a tag against it. And at that point you go, actually, for for GDPR, do we need all this credit card data? No, we don't. Let's delete it. Let's do that GDPR thing and get rid of the data when we don't need it. So MIP is very, very powerful. It's a very broad subject. But again, harking back to that, keeping control of your data, keeping control of it when it's in your system, and keeping control of it when it's outside of your system. And you can do things with the MIP as well that takes you to the next level again, which is controlling access to that data for a limited period of time. So even if it's somebody within the business that wants access to a piece of data that they're not normally allowed to see, you can go, okay, you can go in and edit that document for the next 2 days. And you tell the system that person's allowed access to that type of data for a period of time, and you give them that period of time, and they can go in, and without you doing anything, it will remove that access at the end of the session. Again, very powerful, keeping in control of your data. It does require a level of management. Of course it does. The more complicated the scenarios, the more you have to do to keep on top of it, to keep things working. And this is where we bring back the zero trust and the BYOD and finding the balance. It's every business's requirements are different, and every business, every industry has different requirements. And so we have to be aware of that. Part and parcel of what we as Bedrock do is we will try and understand the business requirements and the industry requirements to make those recommendations to allow you to make informed decisions so that we can find the right balance between BYOD and zero trust to enable your workers to work in the way that you want them to work, and for you to keep control of your data. It's always a tricky balance. It's always something that requires review. If you were to go down the MIP line, then there's a lot of management involved there, and keeping control of your data becomes maybe even a full-time job, and the business has to be of a size where that makes sense to do. You wouldn't want to employ somebody in a MIP role, data governance role, when you're only a 10-person company. But that's where we can come in and offer that as assistance, as a part-time thing, as somebody to keep in control of it for you. So finding the right balance, it's all about your individual requirements at the end of the day. You certainly don't want to leave the door wide open. You certainly want to understand where your data is and keep control of it. But there's always that, if you send a document out, do you need to keep control of it once it's gone? Maybe not. Do you use SharePoint and send a copy of the document? Do you use SharePoint and send a link to the live document? Every situation is different, every company is different, and understanding the basics, which hopefully I've gone through sufficiently today, will allow you to raise questions internally, to question yourselves internally, and then go, okay, we can tweak this, we can change this, we now know where all of our data is. Or you come to us and say, help, and we can come and help you to ask the right questions, to nose around the systems and go, there's a hole there, you need to go and fix it, and we can assist with that. Okie dokie. I think Jenny comes back to goes, what's next? And I've I think I've led into that for you, Jenny. There we go.
Yeah, thank you very much, Adam. That was a really good intro, actually. I find this whole topic really interesting, particularly like as you were saying, that more and more it seems that we're getting the tools that can take over some of the more tedious admin for us. So where you might not know where your data is, or if you've got any confidential data, you can use those data classification tools to go through and find some of those really standout confidential pieces for you, such as the credit card information, and then the information protection as well. It just gives you that layer that I guess it's quite a bit of admin initially to put it in, but once you've got those options there, it's a click of a button to say this is a confidential document. It doesn't need to go anywhere apart from to these people.
Yeah, it certainly is. When you put there's the Azure information protection, when you put that plugin into Outlook, for instance, and you generate a new email, there are literally a number of buttons across the top of the screen, and you click on the right one. And it can be configured that it won't allow you to send an email until you've clicked on a button.
Yeah.
And if you clicked on strictly secret, and in that in the distribution list for that email is somebody outside the company and you can't send it, it just won't send it until you've got the right setting set. And it's the same with Word documents and stuff like that. You can be forced to put a tag onto it when you're creating it. And for documents that are already in existence, like say there's an AI engine, and there's automatic ways of searching through stuff and putting tags against things for you.
Yeah, and as with all things security focused, the easier you can make it for your end users, the more likely it is they're going to do it.
That's always it. The users will always take the easiest route. But if you it's about training on that piece. But if you make it as simple as possible for people to do, they will do it right for you because they understand the requirements.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you very much, Adam. That was really informative, and we'll get you back again soon.
No problem. Thank you.
Talk us through something else. Okay, so as Adam was saying, if you've heard something today that you think could benefit your business, but you're not really sure where to start, or you know that you potentially have a weakness within one of the other areas within our 8 rocks, then Bedrock are here to help you. So we offer an IT strategic review, which is a simple way to gain board level consensus on what's important, what can be fixed right now, and where you need a plan going forward. A strategic IT review will give you the facts you need to make a positive change, whether that's adoption of new technology, to hire an internal lead, or brief a technology advisor, so whether that's Bedrock or someone else that you're already working with. We work with CEOs to figure out where the gaps might be in their current setup and then map their technology needs to their business goals. So we very much have the business understanding that IT is there to support the business. It shouldn't be a headache in its own right. So if you think that potentially could help you or your business, please feel free to get in touch, and we will put you in touch with the right people, probably Adam. So if you've enjoyed listening to Adam today, then he can help you with your business requirement itself. We do have a little bit of time left for some Q&A. So if anyone has any questions they'd like to ask Adam while he's here, then please do feel free to join in and send those questions along. I'll give you a little bit of time to do that. Meanwhile, I will just let you know about the next webinar that will be coming up from Bedrock. This will be in the first week of October. And it's the next in our What's New series. This is where we look at the latest new releases that are coming from Microsoft, and that's across Microsoft 365 and Teams. These are kind of intro sessions where we talk you through anything that you might have missed that you could start using within your business, just to make your Teams meetings better, to make your admin a bit easier. And we'll just introduce those along with some demos of how you can use them in your business. So that's on the 7th of October, and you can register for your place now on the Bedrock website. You can find it in the events tab in the top menu. Okay, without further ado, I will say thank you, Adam, for joining us today and for talking us through security for BYOD. And we look forward to seeing you again soon.
No worries. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.